Patrick, thank you very much for joining us today via Zoom. Patrick is someone I've known for many years, and he contributed a great article to our annual report, Middle East Investment Panorama. So Patrick, maybe you could just very quickly introduce yourself. I know you're a director and co-owner of Diligencia, but for those who aren't too familiar with your business, a quick overview would be really appreciated.
So Diligencia is a UK-based company. We've been around for 12 years, providing legal entity data and business information for the Middle East and Africa region. This is a part of the world which suffers from a real gap when it comes to reliable and accessible information about companies operating in the region. So we provide that as a base layer of fact for companies to make decisions based on sector mapping, business intelligence, customer onboarding and regulatory compliance through to credit risk analysis.
Thank you very much for that. Within our MEIP, as I'm going to call it from now on, your article was focusing very much on family offices in the Gulf and was based on data and research that Diligencia has produced over the last 5 years. Why do you think focus on family offices is so relevant during this current environment?
Well, if you put the COVID-19 situation to one side, I think what we've seen for the last few years is with the oil price static or in decline, you're seeing sovereign wealth funds really winding down or pausing entirely their strategic investment programs, which means that family offices are becoming increasingly important for asset management firms as a source of passive wealth, really, to be invested across global markets.
Great, thank you. And family offices obviously are pretty opaque. So what are the options from your firm for, let's say, investment management companies looking to target this particular sector?
Well, it can be tough because, as you say, there isn't a lot of good quality information about family offices out there. So what people have to do is either rely on informal networking, building up their black book of contacts. There are conferences and events focused on family offices, but it can be difficult and it takes a long time to build up that network of contacts, particularly if you're a firm that's newly arrived or a person that's newly arrived in the region. So that's where we come in. What we're aiming to do is provide a good level of background information and context about each family office, what their background is, their source of wealth, and the key personnel involved.
Of course, in the MENA region, there are thousands of family offices, but when we started working on this project with you a year or so back, we identified there were about 160 family offices relevant to investment management companies. So could you just expand on your family office database a bit more?
Sure. So in terms of our coverage, we're up to well over 200 now. And the universe is pretty difficult to pin down. Some people suggest it's up to 1,000. We think currently around 500 or 600 family offices in the region, although that number is always going to move as new family offices get set up or existing family offices splinter into a number of different family offices. So, as I say, what we try and provide is good quality, reliable information on the background to that family office, its investment strategy, which is so key to understand. Are they Sharia compliant or are they not? Do they invest in funds or only in direct investments only? And crucially, who are the key people? Do they have a chief investment officer? If so, who is he or she? Which family members are still involved in the decision-making process? And so on. Which sectors are they involved in? So that's what we provide on a consistent basis across all the family offices we cover.
And how do you go about collecting all this data? Because it's very tough, of course, finding out A, who these family offices are, and B, who the decision makers are. So do you have a massive research team? And if so, where are they actually based?
Yeah, so as a team, we're around 70 people based between our 3 locations here in the UK, in Morocco and in Dubai, in the UAE. And our methodology starts with our core business, which is really mapping out corporate structures across the region, finding ultimate beneficial owners, directors and shareholding structures for companies in the region based on official registry sources. And typically within each family group, there is one designated entity that is seen as the family office responsible for investing the family wealth. So once we've identified that family office, where it sits within the corporate structure, then it's a case of speaking to well-placed contacts in the market, our own sources, our own networks, to find out the areas that I mentioned. Who are the key decision makers? What sectors, what investment vehicles do they favour, and their typical investment methodology themselves.
Great, thank you. And final question is, lack of governance is clearly a problem with a lot of family offices. I heard on the radio the other day that maybe only about 5% of all the family offices in MENA have a proper governance structure in place. What do you see happening with corporate governance, and is it improving?
I mean, that statistic's not surprising in many ways. Don't forget that many of these family offices weren't deliberately set up to be such. They were really born out of a growing family business, perhaps one entity that started making acquisitions of similar companies in the sector. And at some point, they've decided that this should be the family office. I think the tipping point for many of them come when they decide that they should bring in some form of external advice, either an advisor or a chief investment officer. And when they switch from thinking this is just part of the family business to this is an entity that's going to be investing on behalf of the family. And that I mentioned in the article, that requires a mindset change as much as anything else. I think when you reach that point, that's when governance starts to become an issue. You start forming an investment committee, perhaps, bringing in other structures and how to decide where to invest and so on. So that's one thing. That's an internal dynamic that I think will change over time as family offices mature. But at the same time, don't forget, in the region, we're seeing a general improvement of governance and compliance environments as a whole. Just recently in the UAE, we've had a fairly critical report from the Financial Action Task Force, looking at the UAE's controls on money laundering and terrorist financing. And so inevitably, you will see the environment improving when it comes to compliance and governance for companies. So whether it's internally or externally, it is part of a general maturing process, which will inevitably occur over the coming months.
Great, thank you. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Hopefully we'll meet in the DIFC face-to-face over a coffee soon. So thank you. And if you're watching this video, please remember to like and share. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, see you soon. Bye-bye.